if they can come via Brixton, we'll give them a warm jerk chicken welcome.
And a breakfast, breakfast.
Well, jerk chicken for breakfast, you're pushing it, but we'll do it for you. Time to pass by us, we'll welcome them. But today's been absolutely historic day. I've really had my batteries recharged by what I've seen out there today. Because contrary to the belief that the Tory government and their Lib Dem gangster partners would have us believe, that everybody is fooled by their rhetoric about this debt situation, that we're all in it together and so on. We're not all in it together. But let's be clear, people. The reality is that Britain had a bigger debt just after the Second World War than it's got now.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we had. And how did we get the economy moving? We built railroads. We built our manufacturing base. We built schools and hospitals. That's the way you get out of recession, by investing in the public services and the capital transport infrastructures. And although they'll say, well, it's so much £1 million a day to pay that interest, and everybody knows we've got to tighten our purse, what they're seeking to do is confuse the vast majority of the public into thinking there's no alternative. But there is an alternative. Cancel Trident, there's an alternative. Bring the boys home from Afghanistan. Libya. Save some money there. Get the corporate tax dodgers like Primark, Vodafone, and the rest to pay their tax. Not only will we have enough money to pay the debt, we could probably expand the public services and invest in them as a result also. So there's a big neoliberal con, a lie, to make us think there is no alternative. But what is it really about then? It's not about economics. It's about the most vicious and sustained ideological assault on the working classes you've ever seen in our lifetime. Because what they're seeking to do is to reshape the economy, reshape it into a less minimum wage, no workers' rights unless you've been employed 2 years or whatever it is they're seeking to bring forward now. An attack on terms and conditions. Let's raid the pension pot in order that we can keep Philip Green in the lifestyle he's accustomed to. This is what this is about. Nothing to do with economics, everything to do with the pernicious and vindictive ideology of this government. And let's say it clear. This is a live or die moment in the Labour movement struggle. This is no time for Labour councils to sign up to a cuts agenda that will leave us all worse off. I hear Labour councillors say, I voted for the cuts, but I didn't come into politics to do this kind of work. Well, I say, get the hell out of politics. Because I can find candidates who will stand up and say no to cuts and be jailed on that very principle if that's what it takes. Because at the end of the day, if our children can't get into education, can't go to college, can't get jobs because of the contraction in the manufacturing industries, they all can't work for minimum wage at Burger King, they all can't stack shelves part-time in Tesco's. And if we had the money to invest in these things, we could save our next generation. And I'll tell you something. You know, the world that we bequeathed to our children is worse than the world that was bequeathed to you and I by our parents. And surely it is the fundamental responsibility of parents of this generation to understand we may have not got everything right, but by Jesus Christ we will go to jail on this one to secure the future of our children and our community. And that's why I'm supporting the call from the trade union movement and others for civil disobedience. Let's take those public services back. You want to close that hospital? Occupy it. That school? Occupy it. We've got to now realise that although we are a democracy of 1,000 years old, we have now got to be militant in our fight against these people. They're not holding anything back. Your pensions, our pensions are at stake. Old people will die this winter. Disabled people will suffer as a consequence.
Yeah,
young mothers will struggle with their kids as a consequence of this. Crime will rise. Heroin and drugs will flood in to our estates and our communities. We know what happens when there are no jobs in our communities and what happens to our young people. So in order to provide that leadership, I say we're going to have to, living in extraordinary times, calls for an extraordinary response. That's why I'm so glad that the Unite Union has opened its doors to unemployed people, and every union should do that immediately. Because we need one struggle. That includes the labour movement, as well as those who've never worked a day in their lives or known employment. They're our people too. And at the recent riots, I'll end now, Chair. On those recent riots, we heard David Cameron say that this was all about a criminal, purely criminal element. Let's be clear, comrades. 5 black men have died in suspicious circumstances this year in police custody. The Tottenham situation was as a result of profound injustice in relation to the black community. And let me tell you, as I wind up and head home, he said that riot was purely criminal. Well, I've got a definition of what a criminal is. A criminal is somebody with predatory instincts who has not yet amassed sufficient capital to open a corporation. Thank you very much.